Hi, and welcome to this recording of my comic book drawing process. My name is Luis Escobar. I'm a storyboard artist on the Simpsons television show. I've been working on the show for over 25 years now, and I'm here to empower you. So I've been working on this comic. I'm probably going to be doing a few of these recordings to show you the whole process of drawing a comic. I unfortunately didn't record myself drawing the very first panel of the comic. This comic has 5 panels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So you only see me draw 4 of them, starting with the last 4. In it, you will see the process that the drawing process. What you won't see is me roughing out each panel, but what you will see is me finishing the drawing of each panel. Some of the techniques that I tend to use, and I'll talk about them and explain them as I go. So you will see how I approach doing a comic. The process took me about 3 hours. What you will see is 3 hours compressed into about 6 minutes. If you want to see the uncompressed version where you can look at everything that I did, then you can become a patron, and there will be a video on Patreon where you will be able to see the full 3 hours in real time. That way you can fast forward to the part where you want to see a little bit more detail of how I approach something, but otherwise it is compressed. The punchline of the comic will be censored or blurred in the YouTube video because I don't want to give away the punchline to the general audience. One of the reasons why it's not that it's dirty or whatever, it's just because I don't want to give away the punchline. Also, the people who will see the final will get to see the punchline. So my patrons get to see the punchline, and where the comic strip will be released, which is in aliciaescobar.com newsletter, that's where the comic will be released. So without any further ado, here is the making of the comic. I usually start with a rough. You can see it in red, and I have the drawing of my model here on the bottom underneath in blue so that I could get all the proportions right. I also tend to have the reference on the left here so that I can actually get him to look on model as well. So this was an interesting pose. I had to figure out how to make him holding a cup and holding a newspaper. The hand for holding a newspaper was giving me a lot of trouble, so I used reference to get it right. And that was extremely, extremely helpful. When it came to the background, I actually used a photo. You can actually see that I skewed the photo to kind of sort of represent the right background perspective. And then I used, if you saw at the very beginning, I was using a perspective grid to get the perspective where I wanted it to go. And then I used the perspective tool to do the rest. Now you will see me add more detail later directly from the photograph. There it is. So here's the photograph that I used. It's skewed, it's not in the right perspective, so I had to recreate the perspective based off of the photo. It just helped me just speed up the process. I didn't have to design a whole new kitchen, a 1950s kitchen. And then that helped. And for the rest of the panels, it was going to be the same background. Now in this comic, this character becomes female. So now we have the female version, and I wanted to keep the exact same pose, but his body type changed. So I drew in blue here the new body, and I had to draw underneath the clothes so I knew how the clothes would be now baggier, how the clothes would react to the body underneath. And I had to adjust the hand, make it smaller, thinner. The cup, the hand that is holding the cup was another challenge. The photo of that lady holding a cup really helped. And so the challenge here again was getting all the wrinkles of that shirt to fall on a smaller body. So you could see, then she's getting smaller and smaller. Now here's how this is a poses that I started kind of creating on the spot. As this, I don't believe that this, well, I think, yeah, this panel was in it, but the next panel I had to create from scratch. And I think I started getting the hang. At this point, this is where I start feeling a little bit more confident in getting the hang of the whole drawing in this style. It's a style that I am not used to drawing in, but it, as you can see, I started getting a little bit more comfortable with it. And once I had figured out what the newspaper was going to look like, it was much easier to work with. A lot of adjusting. Here's adding the dialogue and roughing out the pose. Now this panel was never meant to exist, but I realized that it was necessary for the punchline. I couldn't go from the panel of her being surprised to the panel without this panel. And I did a couple of different versions of the face to get the face just to be ambiguous but still thoughtful at the same time. And again, the clothes was really important. It needed to be really, really baggy because her body type, the body type of the character had changed, and so the clothes didn't fit the way it ought to have fit. And there we go. I finished this panel too, just making sure that everything was working. This is the final punchline, and there was a lot of playing around with a specific thing here. You can see that I'm trying to put it, the hands were under, I drew lots of different versions of the hand. I didn't exactly know what to do with it. Putting all these props in the right place was kind of difficult at first, and there, I think this was the only prop that I actually really got right the first time, and then all these other things I was moving around and adjusting them, and then finally I ended up with this. So here's me trying to draw the hand, making sure that it's all working, and there you go. Oh, and then the shirt was not long enough, so I kind of had to extend it and make it longer. But that was, and made a few minor adjustments. Oh, another thing is that the heads in all of these were too small. So I went over and I had to enlarge the heads and adjust the heads. So that's it. That is the comic. And by the way, that last panel with the guy and the beast, that was panel 1. So surprise, you got to see panel 1 also. So as you can see, I was using some reference, especially with the newspaper. I was using some photos for the background. So let me explain a little clearer about what I was doing with the background. So I took like a photo, say there was a photo of an environment that kind of fit my rough. I was looking for a 1950s looking kitchen, and that's what I typed up, and I needed one with a counter with a bar, and I found a photo that had exactly all the elements I wanted, but it wasn't in the right perspective, but it was close. So what I did was I skewed it. I grabbed the photo and then I skewed it as if it was going in the perspective that I had originally roughed out in my thumbnails and in my rough. And then what I did was I put horizon line and perspective grid underneath it. And I actually literally used a photo as a guide, as a design. But I changed the details so that it was all going in the perspective that I needed it to go. So there was that element on top of the stove where the fan goes, and it was more flat, and you were actually able to see the top in the actual photo. But I changed it from, like, say, this perspective like this, so that you could see it underneath like this in this perspective. And so I did that with the entire background, and I adjusted it. And I changed some details, and I added more elements, and I put a bowl there, and I took out some things. So it was a stepping point. It was a quick jumping off point. I could have started it from scratch and done it all from scratch, but the point was speed. I needed to just get it done. It's not about how perfect I am at drawing everything. It's just about boom, getting it done, getting it done, getting it done. So that's why I do sometimes take these shortcuts. And that part where the guy was holding the cup in the newspaper, man, that was tough. Like I couldn't out of my head. So having a picture of a lady doing both things, it was perfect. If it's perfect, it makes everything. It doesn't. I mean, it helps so much. So a lot of this stuff is all about speed for me. Just speed, 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 speed. It took me 3 hours to draw the four panels. I don't know if I could even do it even faster. Like I said, the point is speed for me. Just get it done. The next video I'm going to do is the coloring process, and that is going to take, I don't know how long that's going to be. I'm still recording those videos, but then you will see it'll be sped up so that you can see the entire coloring process, and I'll try to explain it as best I can in the next video. Okay, so thank you so much, and I will see you next time. All right, bye.